Okay, good evening. I think we're ready to get started here. Welcome to the second of 3 planned traffic management task force meetings. We're in San Pedro tonight. The first meeting was in Wilmington. The next meeting is planned for January 9th in the city of Long Beach. Venues yet to be determined for that. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you of the materials that you have to aid you in participating in this meeting. We have a fact sheet, a frequently asked questions, and survey. Most of those are available in Spanish if you like. And Javier, if you're available, we also have Spanish interpretation, and I'm going to have him just interpret that first bit there.
Buenas noches. Si necesitan información o escuchar todo esto en simultáneo en español, por favor, tengo equipo en la parte de atrás para darle simultánea interpretación. If anyone would like to listen to it in Spanish in simultaneous live interpretation, I can interpret simultaneously. I have devices and I can provide that information to all of you.
I'm joined tonight by a team of Caltrans staff who are working on the Vincent Thomas Bridge and various different elements of the project. We also have personnel here from the California Highway Patrol and a council aide for City Council Member Office, Tim McCosker, who will be able to answer some questions on behalf of the City of LA. Many of you have engaged with this project for some time throughout the various steps of the project that it's climbed to get to the point where we are now. The subject of tonight's meeting is the traffic management plan. Now that we are through the environmental phase with questions about the environmental impact and the feasibility of the project, we're now working on design. And on the other hand, Caltrans is also working on the traffic management plan, which includes the detours that will go into effect once the bridge is fully closed. So there will be a presentation on the TMP, the traffic management plan, followed by a question and answer phase. So now I'm going to hand over the mic to Ken Young, who is the chief of the Caltrans Office of Traffic Manager. He'll give you a presentation about the traffic management plan, where it's at, and any updates that we have from the first meeting that we had in Wilmington. So here you go, Ken.
Good evening, San Pedro. My name is, again, Ken Young. I'm Caltrans Office of District Traffic Manager. And thank you for the opportunity to be here and to continue this discussion in terms of how we can collectively divert traffic and minimize any kind of impacts to businesses, neighborhoods, and schools. So basically, as Nathan was saying, this is the second of 3 workshops. We met with the community of Wilmington. We've got some good feedback, and we're going to. So for those who attended the Wilmington meeting, we're going to present some slides that are familiar, but also we're going to take the opportunity to show the evolution in terms of some of the collaboration and the feedback on those surveys, and kind of give a snapshot of what we see that we could provide to best address any kind of project-associated impacts. So what is a traffic management plan? Essentially, it's a collection of proven strategies to best address the project impacts to the neighborhoods, businesses, and schools, and as well as address safety as relates to construction workers. The expected outcome of this task force is to identify what those detours are, and then to develop the traffic management plan, a collection of strategies and elements to best address any kind of mitigation measures that are needed to maintain, at the very least, maintain the quality of life that the surrounding community has. And the TMP will address many challenge areas that have been brought to the forefront in terms of traffic delays, safety, most notably the need for crossing guards, and air quality and public infrastructure. In terms of safety, specific to crossing guards, we have talked internally, and whether it's a direct or indirect impact, we're open to having that dialogue in terms of seeking opportunities to address those needs. The TMP will consist of a combination of traditional strategies and innovative strategies. Traditional strategies being as simple as public information, advanced information out in the media, internet, or on the ground in terms of motorist information strategies. Once we define what that alternative detour or detours are, we intend to apply certain strategies in terms of with the understanding of the expected demands, what kind of mitigations may be needed. It could be synchronizing traffic signals, for example, to increase throughput, such that motorists may not have a tendency to want to divert, because I know that we know that's a challenge area that's been brought to the forefront. And in terms of automated work zone enforcement systems, those are the information that would give the motorists information in terms of delays or maybe opportunities to inform motorists of what route to use, with the freeway system being the major detour in this case. In terms of the stage construction, the full closure is kind of like the centerpiece of what we're all viewing in terms of the 16-month period. But before that, there will be some work to be done, and that work will be done during the night and during extended weekend closures, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. In terms of the defining the local detour routes, we have a selection of criteria noted there in terms of proximity to the closure, the capacity, if the route or routes have sufficient capacity, and whether it's able to accommodate all vehicle types, as well as rail, transit, and neighborhood school business impacts. As we look at the map here, this is what was represented in the environmental document. That's, I'll say, late spring, early summer. And it gives a comprehensive view of the detours that are considered. This will evolve over time. This is just a consideration, a very comprehensive one at that. The philosophy is to maintain people on the freeway system, and this is to and from Terminal Island. So as we look at the map here to the right, 710 provides that direct access to Terminal Island. Absent that, or if there was some kind of unplanned event in terms of an incident which caused congestion, then there would be an outlet at PCH that would access 103 and North 47. On the 110, egress is required to get to Terminal Island because it will be closed, obviously, at the bridge at just east of Harbor Boulevard. So those exit points or those detours would be Harry Bridges, PCH, and Sepulveda to the north, accessing Alameda or 103 respectively to 47 North and Terminal Island, and then the return trip would be the inverse of that. As noted before, we have a selection criteria. It's meant to be an objective means to identify what of the noted detour routes, which ones would be the most viable ones. So basically narrowing down the collection, the pool of detours identified on the previous map, and bringing it down to what's essential, keeping in consideration the impacts to the neighborhoods, businesses, and schools, as well as criteria in terms of proximity, sufficient capacity. What we have on the far right is, so we basically noted the criteria is met on each route based on the criteria, and we tallied it up in terms of a point system to objectively view what would be the most beneficial to the surrounding community. So as we see it today, Harry Bridges Boulevard and Alameda Street, and Alameda Street is you didn't see it on that previous map. This is an addition, a recent addition. So Alameda connects to the 405 to best circulate traffic with minimal impacts. So Harry Bridges Boulevard and Alameda Street kind of rise to the top in terms of the best candidates in terms of the detours. And this is a representation in terms of a map that speaks to what we're looking at this time. It's not a complete product, it's a work in development. This plan is ultimately a living document, so it could evolve with time and subject to the feedback of your community, or as we move forward, Long Beach as well. So basically it represents the 710 direct connection, but most importantly, I think, is it minimizes significant impacts, or what we view as significant impacts on Pacific Coast Highway. Yeah, so this is a visual representation of the table that basically shows that we recognize that PCH in this case has significant impacts to schools amongst other neighborhoods and businesses. So therefore, what we're looking at is potentially eliminating PCH as a detour between the 110 and Alameda and between Route 103 and the 710. So the portion that would be available in this scenario would be Alameda, between Alameda and 103. Also, Sepulveda to the north because it's a little further out, and because of other criteria, that would also be removed as a candidate. So that would leave the best candidates for detours at this time because it meets the majority of the criteria. Is Harry Bridges from the 110 to that transitions to Alameda, to Anaheim, south to Henry Ford Avenue and North 47, as well as the newly introduced one on Alameda, which connects to the 405 and goes south. And there's two parts to it. One may choose to proceed on Alameda as it transitions to Henry Ford to North 47, or they can choose to utilize PCH to 103 to 47 for a less impeded travel in terms of railroad activity. We understand railroad activity to be one of the primary challenges on Harry Bridges, and particularly within the limits of Henry Ford Avenue. At our previous collaborations with our technical advisory committee or community advisory committee, as well as the first TMP meeting, the question has been, well, we're focused on a lot of the activity to the north of the 405 leading into this impacted area. What about from the south? And so basically, this is a representation that shows the connections to our system to get to Vincent Thomas Bridge. To the right, you have Harbor Boulevard, and kind of like in the middle, you have Gaffey via the 110, and if you hang a left to the west of the 110, Gaffey continues to Channel Street onto Pacific Avenue and onto John Gibson and Harry Bridges Boulevard. Harbor Boulevard also takes that same path, connects with Pacific, John Gibson, and Harry Bridges Boulevard. So basically, I think what we showed the previous slide in terms of Harry Bridges being a potential good alternative as a detour. It has the benefits not only meeting that criteria, but also has the benefits of having a good connection to the San Pedro network as we see it today. I guess if you look a little further, why doesn't it connect to the freeway system? Pacific Avenue could be utilized as a means to connect onto John Gibson and Harry Bridges as well. So from that standpoint, it seems like Harry Bridges seems like a good alternative. Freeway diversion is a means that we're going to use to best address the traffic impact in the area. I kind of spoke to what's north of the 405 approaching this area, and our goal is to divert traffic well upstream as far north as possible on the east side and the west side. On the west side as far north as the 101, on the east side as far north as the 10 freeway. The goal is to channel people or motorists towards the 710 along various points along the freeway system. So how we're doing that, we have fixed changeable measure signs on the freeway, and then we're going to supplement those with portable changeable measure signs. So for example, if you looked at the 405 and you go all the way up to the 101, that could be as the first point, for example, where motorists would have that messaging, and this would be applied 30 days in advance, and be able to make a decision at that point. where to go. It will basically inform motorists of the Vincent Thomas Bridge being closed and to use alternate routes. So we'll basically be empowering motorists to use either the 101, or if you continue south on the 405, the 10 freeway, and the 105 before you get to this area to cut across east and west to access 710 and have that direct connection. Same thing for on the east side. Normally, most traffic goes on the 10 to the 605 or down the 710 and across the 91. Those motorists will have the ability to have that message sent to them, or they'll be able to see those messages and make decisions that are in their best interest to get to the Vincent Thomas Bridge, or the Terminal Island in this case. This slide is a representation of Harry Bridges Boulevard, one of the primary routes that we're looking into. It speaks to, these are future demands that we can expect in 2027 during the full closure alternative. At this time, we have two lanes in each direction. So in terms of the capacity of each lane is normally about 1,000 vehicles per hour per lane. So in general, there's a capacity of 2,000 in each direction. So as you can see, the values along the corridor from Harry Bridges to Alameda, for the most part, are less than 2,000. There's sufficient capacity there. As we hit Anaheim and onto Henry Ford, it's a little more challenging in terms of the capacity. It does exceed the capacity, and that's where we intend to employ some traffic mitigation measures as like signal timing, or most recently, we're able to communicate with the Alameda Corridor Transit Authority in terms of railroad challenges, and there may be opportunities to work with the City of LA to provide some kind of synchronization, basically, to optimize the traffic flow during railroad activities. As noted, there are in the dashed lines, there are railroads there. So we are working with the Port of LA and the Alameda Corridor Transit Authority to best get a handle of the activity level, and then what we could do in terms of, there may be opportunities to, for example, adjust activity beyond the peak periods. If we could remove, do things like that, and we could improve the situation such that motorists will not maybe have the tendency to want to divert or cut through neighborhoods. Those are the opportunities that we're seeking. Trucks have been noted as a challenge area, most notably trucks going through the neighborhoods. So this slide basically represents a snapshot of truck traffic along the freeway system. To the right on the 710, the truck traffic, the percentage of traffic is about 16%, and as you go down south, it increases to as high as 19%, and into the core of the area at the 103, it's 58%. On the 110, it's about 3.5 times less in terms of truck traffic, at about 4.5%, kind of like in the middle there, 4.5% truck traffic. So basically, I'm just basically reciting data that's available to us. I acknowledge that I don't personally live in the area. I do have relatives in the area, but in terms of, this is data that we have from a source that we're utilizing. So that's basically what I'm reciting here. So in terms of the 110, we have information that shows that at some point along the 110, we have 4.5% truck traffic, and as we head south, it descends to 3%. As it transitions to the 47, it's as high as a 10%, and approaching the Vincent Thomas Bridge is about 9%. A lot of trucks, as I have seen, and I think we have been informed of, exit Harbor Boulevard. So that's one observation that we've made. In terms of how do we control, or best control, truck traffic, Harry Bridges, there's signage for Harry Bridges that basically guides more trucks to utilize that for specific port areas. We intend to reinforce that through signage, through static signage, or through changeable measure signs. There are truck restrictions as well. So we understand that there's trucks traveling through areas that are restricted. So we plan to do a similar strategy to apply such signage, but it also takes enforcement. It takes a collaborative spirit in terms of through our CHP, through the local police department to enforce that, amongst other ideas of which the previous, the collective collaboration has raised some or provided some good feedback. So that could be taken into consideration, but at its core, we're looking to provide the CHP or the local police department with the tools to better enforce these areas as it relates to truck travel. Specific to what we talked about before in terms of schools, this is a slide that shows the impacts relative to the detour or potential detour routes. It's very clear, as noted earlier, that PCH has a lot of impacts. So in this case, this snapshot, there's 8 of them, 8 schools, elementary schools and high schools, basically those that would be most impacted in terms of pedestrian safety or bike safety. Harry Bridges and Sepulveda are, for the most part, not as impacted. So they, in terms of Harry Bridges, that's why we would give it greater consideration in terms of the detour criteria. We spoke about railroads before. Some of the bullet points are some of the impacts that we've seen or we've heard in terms of speaking with impacted truckers along the corridor. While the weekends have pretty good substantial delays, the weekdays appear to be even amplified further. We are working with the Port of LA, and we are working with the Alameda Corridor Transit Authority to see what kind of opportunities we have to alleviate such activity, such that motorists won't get to that point where they're frustrated and divert through neighborhoods. We have seen, my staff have seen trucks make U-turns while waiting for the train system to go through. So that'll be a topic of conversation as we have our task force workshops, basically in-person collaborations with our partners. When a detour or detours are defined, we expect to rehabilitate, maintain, and restore the roadway back to its prior conditions. So this basically kind of, and we know based off of surveys, based on a lot of feedback, that pavement conditions are less than desirable, and that may be attributed to a lot of the truck travel that are going through the area. So we recognize that, and we expect our facilities to be up to a standard conditions where rideability is good. When the detours are defined, we will establish or work on the transportation management plan, which consists of about 7 strategies. This first strategy is public information. We have a public information officer that or team that will work towards getting the information out through a number of outlets, through social media, through the internet, through public meetings like this, or it could be mailers as well. This is a very effective means of getting the message out early, so that we provide people with the ability to plan as best as possible when such activities occur. Strategy 2 is kind of what we referred to in terms of freeway diversion. This speaks to elements on the ground in terms of changeable message signs that could be deployed to best inform motorists and to empower them to utilize other routes to get to the 710, for example, and directly to Terminal Island. Incident management is, a lot of ways, it's cooperation with our CHP. We have a construction zone enhanced enforcement program. We have a traffic management team that surveys the back of queues, for example, to ensure that when there is backup in case of any kind of unplanned events, that we have a safe facility. And then I think we spoke to cameras. So we do have tools such as CCTV cameras and loop detectors that can be utilized. Construction strategies. Safety is our priority, so a lot of times we reduce the speed zones within construction zones. We apply work during extended weekend closures, and we provide the appropriate lane closure needs in terms of to provide that balance in terms of doing the work and meeting the needs of the operations of the facilities. Strategy 5, demand management, speaks to availability of resources in terms of, it could be mobility hubs, and opportunities that we could all seek to best plan our trip in terms of whether that be van pools or car pools, if we have the ability to have a flexible schedule or telework. Those are opportunities that we all could seek. So that speaks to strategies to reduce the demand on the system such that we could have as optimal traffic flow as possible. When we define the detours and relative to the expected demands on the system, we expect to apply the appropriate mitigation measures to optimize the traffic flow. That could be through signal timing adjustments, that could be through additional storage, such as a left turn lane pocket or whatever it may be. Where opportunities, when it's needed, we may work in collaboration with the local police department and the CHP to provide traffic control officers. This last strategy speaks to just general innovative strategies. We have strategies that we employ, but we're open to hearing any other strategies that maybe we haven't welcomed, so to speak, because of lack of knowledge or lack of resources. And if there's opportunities there, we're receptive to hearing that. In terms of, we talked about a number of issues, notably crossing guards, and again, we discussed internally that whether it's an indirect or direct impact, we remain open-minded to being part of the solution, so to speak. Talked about truck enforcement, motorist information, and public information, and providing real-time information in terms of available data in terms of what the traffic conditions may be on a particular route, and how we could use that technology to redistribute it along the freeway system. And across the heading speaks to the responsible agencies. So while this is a Caltrans project, it takes a collective team and effort to get this done. So that's whether it's working with CHP or working with the Unified School District. That's what we're going to do. We're already meeting on a monthly basis with our partners and stakeholders, and to a certain degree at the community level, and as well as in public meetings like this. In terms of our first meeting, this is kind of a summary of that. It speaks to some of the challenges in terms of trucks or motorists traveling through the neighborhoods, which we will continue to discuss. It talks about the potential, the difficulties on PCH, related to signals in schools, which we spoke to in terms of our forthcoming collaboration and our willingness to work with the Unified School District and the City of LA towards solutions related to crossing guards, as well as just project coordination. There's a lot of projects going on, a lot of different agencies. So while it's not perfect, we're doing our best to work with our partners and stakeholders, and it's a juggling act, but we are working with them, and we're making adjustments as well as they are. So it takes cooperation to get the conditions that are palatable. In terms of, as Nathan had noted, we have one more public meeting in terms of the TMP task force, and that will be in Long Beach on January 9th. And as I had noted, there's a survey there, so please take that survey. I've noticed an uptick on the survey, so that really helps us identify what your challenges are, what your typical paths may be, the reason behind those trips. So it helps tailor what we believe could be the best detours that could have the least amount of impacts. So with that said, thank you for your time. And back to Nathan.
Yes, you'll be able to access the survey with the paperwork that we've given you, the documents we've given you. Yeah. So next we'll have a brief presentation from the California Highway Patrol. We have Lieutenant Ricky Williams out of the South LA office. He's going to give us an overview of some of their concerns and considerations as they relate to this project.
Good evening, everybody. Once again, my name is Lieutenant Ricky Williams. I'm with the California Highway Patrol out of the South Los Angeles area. So CHP, South Los Angeles area responsibility in this area. We patrol the 710 freeway, the 110 freeway. We also patrol the Vincent Thomas Bridge, the Long Beach International Gateway Bridge. We also have a couple of unincorporated areas, one in San Pedro. And I'm just doing a rough border, but I believe it's like Myler, 1st and 7th, and I forget the most west street. But it's actually just east of the 110 freeway. So we have a small portion of San Pedro that we patrol too. Everything else is, I think, the city of Los Angeles. So once again, we provide traffic enforcement and emergency response to the Vincent Thomas Bridge and of course the freeways. We would definitely be concerned with speeders, with unsafe driving, pedestrians on the freeway. I don't know if you've seen an increase of that, but we have. So we're definitely out there to ensure that everybody is safe on the road. So we know that this is going to have a significant impact on the freeway and, of course, the community areas. We fortunately work well with our allied agency partners, such as Caltrans, such as LAPD, Long Beach Harbor Patrol, LA Port Police. So throughout this whole time of all this planning going on, we will be involved with that to assist with any planning that we can. And we'll definitely try to tailor our enforcement to ensure that the traffic has the most minimal impact possible, even though we know that it's going to have a lot of impact. So we'll be there to ensure that people are driving safe and to help with people trying to cut in line or something like that. We also have our mobile road enforcement officers, which is the commercial officers. I don't know if you've seen them in the big, the pickup trucks. So they primarily deal with commercial traffic. We have the scales on the 405. We have on the north and southbound side where our mobile officers are stationed, and they would definitely assist with any sort of truck enforcement. They are the resident experts in trucks. Let me see. And go ahead. So during the closures, of course, we will assist with the safety of the closures, right? Because when this project goes underway, we want to ensure that there's minimal disruptions to it so everybody can get back to their normal lives. And part of that is a COZEEP, which they mentioned earlier. But what a COZEEP does is it employs CHP officers to ensure the safety of the workers, to make sure that everything goes smooth and everybody is safe. And also for those officers to identify any sort of hazards or issues that are going on that can be cleared quickly, rather than, because usually if we don't have those units there, then it would take somebody calling dispatch, and then that unit from wherever they are to be dispatched to that area. So if we have those units there already, then they could readily identify and hopefully clear those hazards quickly. We would definitely provide information to the public. We utilize social media. We have our PIO here, Officer Urin. He is in charge of all of that too. So any information that we get from our allied partners, we would put that on our social media, the South LA CHP social media, and that's how we also provide information to the public. That's the last one. And once again, we're here to help to ensure that traffic is flowing safely, and just to assist with anything that we can. So thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. We'll move into the question and answer period. I think we will have plenty of questions and comments. So we'll call speakers to the microphone over here based on the order in which we receive comment cards. You'll have 2 minutes to speak. Yeah, so each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak. If you haven't filled out a comment card already, you can fill it out and turn it in while other people are speaking. Our team of Caltrans professionals, CHP, and the port director for Councilmember McCosker is here to answer questions that may come up related to the City of LA. So please remember, this meeting is about the traffic management plan. Keep your questions germane and related to that. If you have questions about the project that aren't related to the traffic management plan or the detour routes, if time permits, staff will be available. Please come up to us after the meeting and ask us on an individual basis. Okay. So Shane, if we could have the first question. Thank you. Okay, first we have Axel Palacios from Councilmember Tim McCosker.
Can you all hear me? Yep. Great. Take this down. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Axel Palacios, and I'm Director of Port and Capital Projects for Councilmember McCosker's office. I'm here today to provide a statement on behalf of the council member regarding the proposed Vincent Thomas Bridge deck replacement project. Over the past few months, there has been a great deal of discussion about the impacts of the project, primarily around the increase in traffic volume. Caltrans received Councilmember McCosker's comment letter on the draft DIR and incorporated some of the requests of that letter into the project, but did give some vague and unenforceable responses to other issues that were raised. On the issue of traffic management, we are looking to see a strong, concrete, clear, and enforceable plan. Specifically, we would like to have dedicated enforcement resources, a variety of realistic and enforceable detour routes in both San Pedro and Wilmington, as well as a sizable investment in preparing our right-of-way for the heavier use it will have to bear during construction of the project. That is why it's essential that we collectively ensure the appropriate and effective traffic mitigations be incorporated into the plan. While the project is beneficial to the local and national economy, we can't forget, and we shouldn't forget, the commuters and residents who will have to endure the impacts of these increased traffic levels. This office demands that Caltrans take responsibility and establish clear, enforceable measures to improve road conditions on every thoroughfare that may be used during construction of the project, and not only the proposed detour routes. We look forward to working with you as your local partners, and we are willing to find solutions together to relieve the impacts of the project in our communities, so long as you're willing to address the concerns of the residents. And thank you. And as stated by Caltrans representatives, there is a project that is currently planned in terms of the Alameda widening, which would overlap with this project. So I'm happy to answer questions. I don't want to deter from your questions for Caltrans, but we are looking to get that project streamlined to go ahead and get into the ground before the bridge closes. If for some reason we're not able to, then we'll adjust our timelines as we need it. We definitely don't want to have both projects going on at the same time to make things even worse, but happy to answer questions if you all have them. Thank you.
Great, and if I could just comment on a couple parts of that statement. So the detour routes have yet to be designated, and when they are, you'll be the first to know. Enforcement of those routes will be, it will require the coordination with City of LA, LAPD, Port Police, and CHP. And we also look forward to opportunities to work with the City of LA to rehabilitate roads that may be used in the detour routes.
Great. Yeah, we really appreciate that. It's not meant to be an attack. It should be a collaborative effort. We're the two major agencies in this area, and we just want to make sure that the residents are served properly and that we avoid Harborgeddon as much as possible. So we're here to help in whatever way we can as well. We just want to make sure that Caltrans takes the opinion of the public into account with the plans that we have ahead. Thank you.
Thanks, Axel. So we have Monica Iriarte. Thank you. And followed by Monica is Vic Christensen, or following Monica is Vic.
Okay, first of all, if my face goes red, I'm not embarrassed or angry or having a medical event. It's just what my face does. Lieutenant Williams, I'm glad that you're here and you spoke. I'm a little disappointed that LAPD isn't here. I live in San Pedro. This has to happen. We all know that. But you mentioned enforcement, and Abel also brought up this issue. I am particularly concerned, this is anecdotal, I don't have all the data, but I'm sure it would back me up, that traffic has gotten so much worse in San Pedro since COVID. Worse than that is anger has gotten more. It's bad. People are I live near Cabrillo and Mary Star, and at 7:30 in the morning, people are running the stop signs, and there's 2 crossing guards. I see it at 12th and Cabrillo near the Daniel Block Boys and Girls Center. People blow through that. They drive the wrong way between 12th and 13th. They don't care. I'm concerned, and I want to make sure that before we start closing things down, that there is a behavior modification or something that people are going to know that this change is happening and there will be enforcement. And I think LAPD needs to be part of this more because not everything is covered by CHP. The areas that I'm talking about, I mean, my parents live on 19th Street. They take their life into their hands and they're already in their 80s. You know, when they drive down 19th with the people who are running stop signs and blowing through red lights, speeding, doing donuts. I mean, I know I'm sounding a little get off my lawn, but it's unsafe and a kid's gonna get killed. A kid is gonna get killed. And you honk your horn or you try to point out there's a kid, you get a finger out the window and an FU, and it's just a mess. So I hope that we can, as much as the arrows are important, by the way, Harry Bridges is a street, it's not a magical portal. So a lot of pressure is being put on Harry Bridges, and I know it's the best option, but I'm a little nervous of all the alternates that people are gonna use and the chaos that's gonna be created. So I'm lucky, I work from home, I can change things as I need to, but that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
Thank you. The point is well taken, and we will be coordinating with LAPD as we move forward. It's Vic Christensen, Xavier Hermosillo, following.
Vic Christensen, I'm a member of the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council, speaking as an individual. One glaring omission that I saw from this whole presentation was the total ignorance of anything west of the Harbor Freeway. You've got various things on the east, but you know, traffic management does not mean only detour routes. You're going to have, as the previous speaker said, a lot of collateral damage of people going up side streets when, especially in the area of Gaffey, the Gaffey entrance to the bridge and the fire department there in that area, when that's blocked off, you're going to have people going up Channel Street, up Capitol, up Westmont to the north, and down south you're going to have First Street and other streets that are all on the west side. They're not covered, and I agree, LAPD needs to be here. They're not covered by CHP. So what's going to happen there? Who's going to do the traffic management and enforcement there? You've got these projects that are listed on the easel back here, about 15 projects that are going on at the same time, or could be going on at the same time if they don't finish on time. And that's going to be a big problem. You've got West Harbor, you've got Western Avenue beautification from 25th to the 405. All that is going to back up even more than it does already, along with Ponte Vista causing problems. You're going to probably have traffic going up through RPV, which causes problems around Dodson Middle School. The schools that aren't listed on that are close to where I know of, you've got Taper Avenue Elementary School, which already backs up and people go through the neighborhood. If you're familiar with it, I'll say it quickly, up through Berrywood, Sandwood, and down Amelia, trying to get around the traffic that's stopped at Taper and Westmont. And you've got Mary Star High School where the old Navy housing used to be, not the one downtown, but the one, a different area of it. You've got all these things that are not covered at all in any of this presentation or any management plan that I've heard of. And those need to be addressed as well because you're going to have a lot of traffic back up there. There's also needs to be a plan of some sort of where surface streets are going to be closed, such as at the Gaffey entrance to the bridge by the LA Fire Department Station 36 on Gaffey, and things like that. And all these are not covered. They're totally ignored, and they need to be covered. You know, the east side of the freeway is not the only part that's going to be affected.
Thank you for your feedback. It's duly noted, and we'll take a broader look at the situation. I think the focus has been on the typical connections onto the freeway system that utilize the Vincent Thomas Bridge. So in terms of the focus has been, I guess it's from what I've seen in terms of the survey, it's been a little consistent in terms of the typical connections in terms of Harbor and Gaffey. If there's anything that's been missed in terms of the west side of the 110, we can certainly take a look at that.
Thank you. We have Xavier Hermosillo, Gail following. I can't read your last name. It looks like it begins with an X, though. Gail, following Xavier Hermosillo.
You said to wait until I was called, so can you hear me okay? All right. And I apologize for interrupting, but I'm a former reporter, and I'm trained to ask questions. Plus, I've been in San Pedro since the day I was born. I was chief of staff to Vince Thomas after when that bridge is named. So I know a little bit about a lot of this, and that's why I've been involved in probably 20 EIRs. So I have more questions than the average bear. You talk about putting signage around. I recently had to go up to Agoura, and I saw signs there that had nothing to do with that area, but which raised the question. I think you need to put closure signs along the 405 for miles before you get to the 110. The 105, the 91, the 7, the Long Beach Freeway is already jammed. It's already locked up. How all this traffic is going to be added to that is beyond me. Also with the 10. Trucks at night. A lot of trucks at night down here where the before you get on the bridge, you get off at Harbor Boulevard. That gets backed up, not just at night, but during the day. As the gentleman was saying earlier, it gets backed up all the way to Sepulveda Boulevard because of truck and car traffic, okay? And so that's something that needs to be looked at. I'd sure like to see the EIR on that. The railroad track sign that was shown there where you told me to shut up and sit down, I was already sitting down. If you've ever driven from Long Beach on PCH, when you get to that intersection, most times it's closed because trains are crossing. And I don't know how in the world you're going to be able to manage those trains because there's no specific schedule. And they're going to lock up from Anaheim, where the railroad starts to come across, that whole curvature all the way to PCH and then beyond onto Sepulveda. And you have to take a serious look at that because those trains are run by two railroad companies, but they come from different parts of the port on behalf of different schedules, different delivery mechanisms. So that's important to look at. Are you going to do outreach to the major corporations citywide, the chambers of commerce? Because there are a lot of companies here that are large corporations, and you've got to get the word to their employees. I've been sitting here trying to imagine how this is going to work, and I'm not going to say it's not going to work, but it's going to be unbelievable. The other thing is that the harbor off-ramp, just for the bridge, has the cruise terminals. And we have multiple, probably 3 or 4 boats ships at one time, and they come in spurts based on their schedules. I think you have to take that into consideration when you're laying out how you're going to, where you're going to advertise. I think you need to go to those shipping companies and alert them now that effective these days, et cetera, traffic is going to be heavier because of your project. Because you can't reach those people with local media, okay? They're coming from all over the place. So that's a very important point. Are you going to enforce the closed-only lanes, or the, can't remember, the closed bike lanes? Because people on bikes will do what they're going to do. And we've had a number of bike accidents here where, they think that somebody's not going to come close to them and somebody's not paying attention, and there have been a couple of fatalities. And finally, for the Lieutenant Williams from the CHP, how are you going to increase the traffic enforcement that's going to be necessitated by a lot of the stuff that's been discussed and that I just mentioned? Are you going to be using motors more often here? Are you going to involve LAPD in their motors? Because they have very limited motors. Their motor capacity is declining. When the Dodger celebration was at the stadium, they had a hell of a problem because they didn't have enough motors to handle the traffic of people going for the big celebration at Dodger Stadium. And so these are all logistical issues. I know they take time, et cetera, but I think we need to have further discussions. And I'd like to hear some responses, not necessarily tonight, but certainly if you're open to it. But long term, you're going to have to do better communicating through this mechanism and also the media. There's a lot of people who are watching on Zoom. And so thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. So I can answer the CHP's, your question for the CHP. So as far as the motors go, we have, 2 motors at our office now? And we're about to lose one, so we're probably only going to have 1 motor officer at our office. Once again, however, we do have the MREs, which are the commercial truck officers, and any of you in here truckers by any chance? Anybody ever was a trucker? Well, if you were a trucker, you would know about the CHP's MREs, and they know when they see those trucks, they don't mess around. So we would definitely do what we can to make our presence known out there as far as the truck traffic go. As far as any other traffic, like I said, with coordination with Caltrans and in our area office, if we need to, set up overtime details to increase our enforcement, then that's something that we'd look into, especially if it's feasible with our budget and all that. So we know that, once again, we know this is going to impact traffic. I am one of the managers at my office, and so, by attending meetings like this and just getting feedback from the communities, and if you guys have any ideas, we wouldn't overlook it. We consider it. But we'll take that in consideration when we're planning for enforcement out in the field. So we're going to do what we can to alleviate this. No plan's ever perfect, and I don't want to speak on behalf of anybody else, but I was in the military since I was 17 years old. I joined the CHP at a young age, and you can do all the planning you want, but no plan ever goes perfect 100%. So the only thing, but to have a plan is better than not having a plan, right? Listening to feedback from the community, it really helps us, just make the best plan we can. And we're not going to be able to implement everything. It's just not possible. So we're going to take your feedback. We're going to do what we can to ensure that your lives are not as significantly impacted. So, thank you.
Okay. Is this on? My name is Gail Fleury. I'm on the Wilmington Neighborhood Council. I am also a resident of San Pedro. I'm not here representing the council. However, I do have feedback from the community of Wilmington. So one comment was to please remove the current road diet so that we've got more space for traffic on roads. It really does slow traffic down, and I think your point was really good, Xavier, about the bike lanes as well. I don't know if you're probably aware that in the land swap between the Port of Long Beach and the Port of LA, the land swap included land in Wilmington that Port of Long Beach now owns. And they're bringing in 14 new tracks into the community there. That's going to increase more, more issues there. So we need to look at that as an impact on traffic, because when those trains come through, 14 more tracks of trains coming through and causing people to have to wait to cross roads. The council president for Wilmington, it already takes her, and she lives near Banning Park. It takes her 45 minutes to get out of Wilmington, and she works in Orange County. How much is added to every person's commute time every day? Has that been factored in? I would venture to say that most of you have not ever come down in the morning and watched the traffic, observed it, and how impacted it already is. But it would really behoove you to have a look at it and see for yourselves, especially the truck traffic that you say is only 3%. It's a lot more than that. And it's destroying the streets around there because there's so many increases. There's also a cement factory that's being put in Wilmington on the harbor. That's going to increase trucks by several thousand per month. So that's going to add in to more truck traffic, which will be a problem. Yeah, so we've found that Caltrans, even though you say you would like to be responsive, has not been responsive to even our councilman who has tried to be in touch with you. One of the things I've recently read from Councilman McOsker is that he has called and has not gotten any response from Caltrans. I know I've called Caltrans and I've never gotten a response back either. So response time is really important because then we feel we're being heard. Right now, you're here, but I'm not sure how much you're really hearing. The law enforcement and fines, it's great to say we're going to have law enforcement, but really the reality is there are not enough CHP, there are not enough LAPD, and Port Police are not going to go beyond the mile outside of the harbor to enforce anything. Your EIR, when I read it, it did not take into consideration a lot of the impact on the community beyond 500 feet because that's all it required. But it requires a lot more than that.
And if you don't mind, I just want to save time for everyone. We've gone over time on your comment. I'd like to respond to what I can.
Okay, just you were talking about, I'm telling you, these are comments from the people of Wilmington. So you're saying that part of the way you're going to make people aware of what's happening is through the internet. Are you aware that a third of Wilmington does not have internet? There are people on our council that do not have internet. We have to text and call them because they don't have internet, which seems odd in this time, but it is, it's true. With so much new construction going in here on Harbor Boulevard, and where they're talking about putting in a 6,000-seat amphitheater, what happens to the traffic that goes, there's no way that this is going to handle that kind of traffic. So this is going to impact over 100,000 residents in the Wilmington-San Pedro area. And I wanted to know what your source for your statistics were on, for your information and statistics, what are your sources? I have no clue what they are. It's vague, so I'd really like to have that information. Thank you.
Well, Gail, thank you for being here. There's several points in your comment which we'd need to refer you to the City of LA, and the City Council members' representative is here to maybe answer questions about the reduction of road diet or the elimination temporarily of road diet measures, such as bike lanes. But But I'd also like to say that we are trying to understand how this closure could impact you in ways that we don't see or that we haven't anticipated. That's why we've created this survey. Those are available in hard copy. If you'd like to take copies of those home to your community, they're here for you to take home. I'm surprised to hear you say that you've called Caltrans and you haven't heard from us. My phone number, Diana, in the back, her phone number is on just about every piece of paper that you'll see here. I carry my phone with me all the time, so if you call me, I'll be sure to answer and return your message. On the point about railroads, you and another speaker brought that up. Coordinating with the railroads is an aspiration and goal of ours. I don't know how successful Caltrans will be in realigning their schedules with yours, but we do hope to work with the railroads in every way possible. Ken, would you like to speak to where the data comes from on the slide?
I can't, in terms of the data, I work with our truck services manager. I can't remember offhand the particular source, but we have a truck services manager that had provided me information relative to all the facilities within our district or within LA County. So that's where the information was retrieved. How that was gathered, I mean, that's I'm not certain of that, but I could establish that source and provide it to you at a later time.
Yeah. A summary. Yeah, we will. I mean, internally, we do create a summary of the meeting. We'll have the recording online, so if you'd like to hear the meeting verbatim, you're able to do that. So up now we have Steve Gressett, followed by Chris Segul. I'll just, yep. If you could, oh, sure.
My name is Steve Gressett. I've lived in the community for 60 years. My question, you said that there was going to be surveillance. Is there presently surveillance here at PCH, here at Sepulveda? Those are like, oh, and here at Harry Bridges, because we should be surveilling this now. Because if we are surveilling this now, we would see like when the cruise terminal's in, traffic is backed all the way up to the 405 on certain days, because getting off at Sepulveda is a major headache. Getting off at PCH is a major headache. At 5 o'clock, getting off at Anaheim. The only clear street that you can get off is B Street because the way that goes under the 110. So, are there currently cameras here now? It's either yes or no.
I have to confirm that. We do have CCTV cameras on our systems, but in terms of specific locations.
But so you're not sure if you're monitoring these presently.
I'm not certain of the location.
Okay, and as for the CHP, Lieutenant, so 3 weeks ago, Yangming was jammed, so the Vincent Thomas Bridge was a parking lot for Yangming containers going into Yangming. The 110 was a parking lot for things to come in here, and if you were trying to get on to the bridge right here, you had to inch out because the truckers were blocking between the entrance onto the bridge because they're jammed up. They were leaving no room. So cars every morning have to dodge in when the vehicle's there. So without having the port operators here, because containers for this port come down this way and they come down this way. Containers for going to Maersk or APL or whatever, they come for both things. So unless you have the operators on board, and unless we're going to find another parking space for those containers, or like you're saying telecommunication, that's fine. These guys can't telecommunicate, okay? They can't carpool. And as for enforcement, here again, when we had clean air trucks, if you had a non-compliance truck, you weren't supposed to come by past PCH. But they came all the time. In fact, the only time that it ever erupted, it was when the Chinese premier came down here one time, and they were playing hide and seek with their clean air trucks because one was going onto the terminal and leaving the other one there. And someone came by and said, "What are you guys doing?" And then finally they shut it down. But so as for compliance, I'm not optimistic. And the only person writing tickets on the bridge right now is LAPD. So if we were being totally honest with each other and you were going to be compliant, we'd be writing tickets here, just like when they block an intersection on where they had keep clear. We'd be citing truckers right here for this right now, and we let them know if you block this entrance onto the bridge, we're going to cite you. But we're not doing that now. That's all I have to say.
Okay, we have Chris, followed by Sal DiCostanzo.
Could you pull up strategy 7, please? Thank you. My name is Chris Aluzzo. I'm a resident here of San Pedro. I'm also the regional director for the Inland Boatmen's Union. We're the Marine Division of the ILWU. We represent hundreds, if not thousands, of workers, Washington State Ferry, Alaska State Ferry. We also represent a lot of mariners that work for the San Francisco Bay Ferry, working with WETA, Water Emergency Transport Authority. I'm wondering if there's been any evaluation to the use of a ferry system, either for shift workers that are working in the Port of LA Long Beach, or people that commute through the Port of LA Long Beach. To me, it seems the fastest way to get traffic across here is direct A to B. I haven't heard any conversation about that. I would like to have additional conversation on that. Happy to speak with anyone. I got a business card here for you if you'd like to talk afterwards. Thank you.
So thank you for that question. And Chris, I think that you're reading the frequently asked questions document that we created. The idea of having a ferry system was actually considered during and maybe before the environmental process, but it was determined by the Port of Los Angeles that a ferry service would be infeasible for numerous reasons, including regulatory concerns of ferries crossing the main channel of the Port of Long Beach, interfering with other port traffic, and the need to construct and operate ports of origin and destination for ferries, acquisition of ferries, and the hiring of ferry operators, as well as parking infrastructure. I know that a system was operated sometime in the 60s, but at this time has been deemed infeasible by the Port of LA. So now we have Sal DiCostanzo, followed by John Hildebrand.
It's John Hildebrand. Hello, everyone. Thank you. My name is Sal DiCostanzo. I'm the port liaison for the International Longshore and Warehouse Union. Thank you to Caltrans for hosting this event tonight, and thank you to my fellow citizens for coming out on a relatively cold Southern California holiday night for this very important project. The ILWU has been involved in discussions around this project since the very beginning. We represent nearly 15,000 members who work every day and every night inside the port of LA and Long Beach. We move the world's cargo, one can at a time. Our dispatch hall is located at the corner of Alameda and Anaheim, and our casual hall is located at the intersection of Broad and I think C Street. Those 15,000 members work roughly split between evenings nights and days. You can imagine that a 15-minute delay by any one of our members showing up at the terminal can have a ripple effect that could have tremendous setbacks in terms of productivity. This gateway represents the movement of approximately 40% of the nation's cargo, and consequently it has not just local impacts as the largest employer in this area, but regional, statewide, and national implications. Since the beginning, there has been a lot of progress made. I want to say thank you to Caltrans. I want to say thank you to the City of LA, the Port of LA, because from where we started to where we are now, I have seen considerable progress. That does not mean that we're all the way there. We are most concerned about the overlapping of projects that's on that board. Alameda and Alameda and Harry Bridges Boulevard is going to be, as we've said repeatedly, the main alternate detour route for the Harry Bridges project. For the Vincent Thomas Bridge project. Of our 15,000 members, approximately 53% live within 5 miles, and 74% live within 10 miles. A disproportionate number of those live here in San Pedro, right here where we're standing. So they have to make it from San Pedro to the dispatch hall, which I've already detailed the location, and onto Terminal Island. I would love to see, where did Chris go? I would love to see a ferry route to get from San Pedro to the island. It's going to help a lot. If those two, as I understand it, the two projects are, as of the last meeting, 90% overlapped in terms of their construction. I have heard some movement that the Alameda project is being moved forward, and I think I heard some movement about pushing back the Vincent Thomas Bridge project a little bit. The more we can push one forward and the other back, with all due respect to the Olympics, I think that this gateway is more important than the Olympics. Okay? I want it done before the Olympics. We all want a successful Olympics. But this bridge and this gateway is more important. Let's push forward to the extent that we can the Alameda project, and let's push back the Vincent Thomas Bridge project as much as we can so that at least those two projects are not overlapping.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we are closely coordinating with the city project, the Alameda South. Actually, we are meeting with them on a monthly basis. And Axel here from Councilman McCusker also is a partner with us in that endeavor. And hopefully we're going to have a smooth coordination. So you're not going to feel the pain that you expect to feel. So.
We have John Hildebrand, followed by Henry Gwynborn.
Okay, thank you. I hope this is the appropriate time to address this. In addition to mentioning the overlaps of the different projects, there's always the view that they do take longer. Projects do take longer. Will work be taking place on this bridge 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Because, if it's going to be closed for that amount of time, it is an industrial area. I do understand the safety with the port, but, it is a major thoroughfare, and that should be the primary focus. Getting it done, we see Western Avenue right now. There's a lot of space that's blocked off with nobody there. So I don't know, with overlapping projects, are resources going to be specifically dedicated to this one project to get it done on time or ahead of schedule? Yeah. Thanks. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, actually just want to let you know that we are really paying a premium price to get this project done in the fastest way possible. And this is why we brought in the contractor early on even before the design phase, so we could come up with the best solution, the most efficient, and also the speedy solutions that we could find to so we won't impact you folks for a long time. So please trust us on this. Again, we are paying premium price for that, and hopefully you're gonna see this paying off later on.
Okay, yes, contractor going to work 24 hours, 7 days a week. Huh? 24 hours. Every day, 24 hours.
2 shifts, please.
It'll be a contracted project. Caltrans will not be the constructor. It's a contractor that'll be working 24 hours a day. So if you could pronounce your first name.
My name is Gwendolyn Henry. I'm with the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council, but I'm speaking as a stakeholder. Would you go back to the graphic where the 110 freeway and Gaffey and that forked route? That's the first time I've seen that graphic. Yes. So I hope that you have more feedback from more individuals who are in the San Pedro area, because this is going to have a tremendous impact. I don't think you guys really understand. My compatriot over here talked about all of the routes going west. First Street is a major route. I'm really not certain how that was taken into account, because you cannot get to the freeway on-ramp except by First Street and all other points that way. If you live north of that, you've got to backtrack and come back and loop, or you go to Channel. Nonetheless, I hope that there's a lot more discussion about that, a lot more study, especially of those streets going towards RPV and out that way. Now, this is really important to know. The major crisis hospital in the area is Harbor UCLA Medical Center. Do you remember Tiger Woods? That's where he was taken. So my mother had a massive heart attack just in that area where the First Street is. And by miracle, it was on Christmas morning. Nobody was out. She got there very quickly. That's the crisis hospital. You really have to take into consideration all routes, so not to impede ambulances that go that way. Now, I know people who go from San Pedro and go to Long Beach for industrial jobs. They often they don't really see much option right now, but I do want to mention the Anaheim Alameda corridor, areas like that. Anaheim Street, Vermont, Lomita going to Wilmington, South Wilmington Avenue, Wilmington Boulevard where it takes Maine. There's going to be a lot of impacts to that. So I believe that a lot of residential traffic will will flow into that. I take those shortcuts all the time. So I can only imagine how it's going to increase. Now, for communication, social media, for fires, all of the major crisis entities, they use Twitter, believe it or not, to get that information out on a moment-by-moment basis to say, evacuate these streets, evacuate those streets. This is where the fire is coming. I believe that you may have to consider something like that. Perhaps create a dedicated app to talk about the entire network of things that are going on. The Caltrans website is inadequate for that update. There needs to be a redesign or something that is actually more focused. Now, during this process, I hope that while it's going on, that the same public outreach that is happening now continues during the project as well, because there's going to be a lot of problems. No matter what ideas there is for detours and everything like that, it's still going to be a problem. I hope that you have a lot of dedicated people to adjusting the routes and put resources to those adjustments as they come. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your feedback, Gwendolyn. In terms of the last item you mentioned, in terms of adjustments and evaluations, as I mentioned, the TMP is a living document, so to speak, or a living plan. So once it won't be perfect, but where there's opportunities to adjust or to reassess and make adjustments, we're adaptable to that, subject to evaluation. So we're willing to acknowledge, there may be areas that that don't work as well, and we could seek to improve them. So we'll take those opportunities. In terms of the detours itself, as I noted before, the primary focus of the detour plan itself was to focus on the hubs that connect to the freeway system. It's noted that, there are collector roads like First Street, which I just drove myself as well, that connect onto main arterials like Gaffey or to Harbor Boulevard and whatnot. So we could take a further look into that, but I just want to kind of give you a clear understanding in terms of our focus was those connections from the San Pedro area to our facilities to get across the Vincent Thomas Bridge. And in terms of the access from San Pedro to Long Beach, I believe that there was a frequently asked question on that matter. It goes without saying that there will be impacts, direct or indirect, but I think there's opportunities to utilize the Harry Bridges Boulevard to, I think you mentioned Anaheim Street or the PCH. We'll try to make it as best as possible in terms of your trips. We're willing to adapt as needed. Thank you.
And to touch on a few other things, Caltrans does have social media pages, including Twitter. The Public Information Office just in the last week or so stood up pages specifically for the Vincent Thomas Bridge. So if you're on social media, you'll be one of the first to follow us. And also, interesting point you raise about the crisis hospital. Just within the last couple weeks as well, the City of LA reached out to us, letting us know that their emergency services department would like to communicate with us more about this project. And actually one of their staff members has been attending this meeting as well, or these meetings as well. So we are actively coordinating, and we're aware of interest from the City of LA to enhance that even further. Next up, we have Jesse Marquez, or Marcus. And Jesse's followed by Lydia Gutierrez.
Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to have a community meeting. My name is Jesse Marquez. I'm a lifetime Wilmington resident. I'm also the founder and executive director of the Coalition for a Safe Environment. We're a 23-year-old environmental justice organization. First question. I went to your website 4 or 5 times in the last 2 weeks, and I cannot find on your website when is the deadline to submit public comments on the final EIS. Nowhere on there does it state the deadline to submit public comments. And I called up the 2 people that are on your fact sheet to call up for information on the website that are in the LA office. I called the first one that looked like they had the best title there, and the phone answered. I had to leave a message. I left a long message, my name, who I was, and exactly what I wanted, my phone number, and my email. I still haven't heard from her. I then called the other number, and the gentleman did answer. But here is the problem. He just got hired like 2, 3, 4 months ago. He doesn't know anything. Okay, so that's your community relations. You have no community relations. Okay. Since you haven't answered me, what is the deadline for submitting public comment on the FER?
Jason, if you could answer, and by the way, I was the one that answered the call. I am new to Caltrans. I'll be candid about that, but I did give you my information and asked you to send me an email so I could follow up with you with the most accurate and comprehensive information.
The environmental document is done.
I know it's done, but when is the public comment period
It-
to
it-
submit comments on the final EIR?
Right, so that's in the past.
No, it's not in the past. You haven't held a public hearing for public comment.
No, we did. We had 3 public meetings.
No, a public meeting.
Yes, we did. We had 3 of them.
No, but you've not stated this is the public comment deadline from this date to this date.
Well, we did. We did this in the past. It ended in September. It was months ago. And we got the final environmental document certified at the end of October. And that has been posted on the state clearinghouse since the end of October. So we did, and we had a 90-day circulation period for that document. We had 3 public meetings. We had lots of outreach.
No, you had public meetings about the final EIR, but you did not say what is the deadline. That's my concern. The deadline.
Well, we did. We always do that.
It's not posted. It's not posted.
Well, it's because it's history. it's
No, but
over.
At that time too, it was not posted. This is the deadline to submit.
Okay.
Now, because here's a problem. Because here is a problem related to it. You're talking about a TMP, a plan, well, under NEPA and CEQA. Okay. All assessments, reports, plans must be included in that final EIR for evaluation. Because you're talking about, oh, it's a living document. Well, it's also not an enforceable document. So why are you wasting our time for something you can't enforce? You admit you cannot enforce it. And it was not included as part of the final documents. Because both those laws require it must be included in the final EIR. You can check numerous court cases where they showed, and the courts decided that, you can't put something out there that doesn't have any, time schedules, milestones, objectives for completion. It can be a living, you can add and change things, but it's not acceptable.
So maybe we're getting 2 different things. We got the environmental process, which is behind us. We now shift gears to the traffic management plan, which is the living document that we're talking about tonight. So what was done in the environmental document has tons of the technical studies. It's got all of the coordination that we went to the community. We started in April 2023. That's all in the environmental document, and it's been certified and it's complete and it's done. Now we moved into the traffic management plan, and that's what we're talking about tonight and what we're going to be talking about.
So when will there be a final traffic management plan?
I don't even know if we'll have a final. We'll be living throughout construction until it's open to traffic and we're done.
Yeah, but see, you're approving a document without a public review and a public comment period.
Well, that's the way all of our Caltrans
All the
projects
things you
are done.
said so far are not acceptable.
All of our Caltrans projects are done this way. All of the traffic management plans or detours during construction are done during final design. Final design is actually starting, I believe.
Okay, then show me in your documentation from Pacific Coast Highway, Figueroa to Burlington Boulevard, what was designed for the maximum capacity and the synchronization. Tell me, show me the document.
And when did you
You don't know, because you don't have a document. You did no assessment.
Well,
You're going to synchronize what? Right now, it's okay.
the detours under consideration were included into the document that that was previously noted. The TMP is developed along the project development process. So as we move towards design, that will be the traffic management plan will be developed and finalized.
Okay, and if we, the public, which is 90%, say it's unacceptable because it's not.
And during that process, we receive comments such as that, and any kind of good feedback or feedback in general, and we consider that as part of the plan. There are things that we.
If it's not acceptable, you guys rubber stamp it, just like you talked about the Port of Los Angeles.
We will consider feedback and apply what is reasonable.
Yeah, but see, since it's not in the final EIR, we cannot sue you and take you to court and challenge you on the inadequacy of it. That's the problem. Where does the public have an opportunity to challenge you and change it to make it right?
Good question.
Because you're going to rubber stamp it.
I mean, and we need to move on. We spent more than enough time on this speaker, but there is ample time to provide input to the traffic management plan. This is the second meeting. There will be another one on January 9th. As I think we noted on PCH, for example, we took the input about concerns about schools along PCH, and it's no longer really one of the routes that we want to use at this time. So there's been ample public input. You have more chances to do that. The environmental phase is over. The final environmental document is published. So next speaker is Lydia Gutierrez, followed by Lori Jacobs.
Hi, my name is Lydia Gutierrez, and I have a family member that actually helped build the Vincent Thomas Bridge, so that's kind of neat for me. I have 3 questions. One is on the 103 highway. As you know, if you traveled on it, which I do every day, that from south to north, there's only one. It goes into one lane, and so you're buddying up with these trucks, and then coming from north to south, it's closed. So is that going to be fixed by the time you start the project? You know, that will have both lanes available, because a lot of trucks will be using that lane. Okay, good. That's number 1. Number 2, instead of doing Twitter and things like that, is it possible to have a radio station that I can just, while I'm driving, that I can hear where there's hot spots or where there's a good, clear pathway for myself?
I think we're open in terms of communication, so we'll keep that in mind.
Okay, thank you. And then the third one was that on Harbor Boulevard, as you know, they did a diet lane all of a sudden right at Thomas Bridge, right there to one lane. So you have truckers coming off the 110, off that off-ramp, right onto Harbor Boulevard, and we're all waiting to keep going. And all these trucks are going, and they block the pathway when the light changes. So it creates a huge headache. Is that going to be turned back into 2 lanes? And because I know, I don't know if they're going to be allowed to be coming off that bridge, from the 110, the off-ramp for Harbor Boulevard. Do you know what I'm talking about? Have you seen that?
In my driving that area, I think I acknowledge the area that's one lane. It looks like it's under.
Yeah, there's something happening. Nobody knows. I don't know what it is.
In terms of what would be 2 lanes, I don't know, but what I do know is that any kind of detours or that they'll be utilized will ensure that all vehicle types could use it. That I think from what my staff have seen, trucks have it when it's the 1-lane configuration. Trucks have some challenges turning there, and it may be a cause of some of that backup which you're referring to. So when we establish that detours, we'll make sure that the truck turning movements in this case are such that we won't have those kind of delays where trucks have to, for instance, swing out and then other traffic are adjusting to that movement. So we'll try to make it as controlling as possible so that we avoid any kind of conflict.
Good job. Thank you. And the last part is, as you know, on Harbor Boulevard, there's a huge structure that condos are being built. And they're also building, they're in the process of building another big structure. And that's all going to be happening, during that year. So that's going to create a huge traffic jam. So just my input. Thank you.
Lori Jacobs, it's your turn to speak.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. Thank you for presenting all this information. I'll start off by saying that sometimes it feels like things are directed at you very angrily and personally, and that's because people have a lot of fear of what Harborgeddon, right? What's going to happen here? So I appreciate all the work that's being done in the transparency and trying to have open conversations. Now, the recent work on Western Avenue by Caltrans, okay, there was no communication ahead of time. And Councilmember McCosker wasn't notified, we weren't notified, and so unfortunately that's created a little bit of a lack of confidence in Caltrans. I wish what you're doing today you would have done to some degree with that project. That would have helped a little bit. And other things I wanted to mention, so this is not you. I wish LAPD was here because of the fact that it's getting worse and worse with people running stop signs, really not caring about rules of the road at all. And people are getting angrier and angrier, and it's going to get worse when they're stuck in traffic. So I have concerns, and we need LAPD to be collaborating with you too. It's very important. I have concerns about the resurfacing of some of the roads. So if you've traveled hairy bridges, you already know that you're lucky if you don't pop a tire if you have to regularly travel on those roads. They're bad. So I heard at some meeting that, and you touched on it, that you're going to do work on fixing up the roads that are going to have the detours before and after. But I also heard at one of the meetings that Caltrans said that's not their jurisdiction to fix those roads. You had a slide up here saying it's Caltrans in the city of LA. So I want to know that they're going to, ahead of time, really fix up as many roads as possible. And even during the process, there's going to be road damage, that people are paying attention to that. And afterwards, that the roads, after Caltrans is done, that they're going to put the roads back to where they were, or maybe even better. I think that's a lot of concerns. You have a difficult task here. There's no good answer where everybody's going to go, whoopee, look, they've solved the whole thing. It's impossible. We get that. I get that. I appreciate, I don't take anything personally. But it is important that all the people involved with this project really understand the roads. I've heard some of you mention you've traveled First Street or Harbor or something. You obviously don't do it on a regular basis if you don't live here. We just want to get from here to there one piece, okay? And I'm sure that's what, safety is one of your biggest concerns. But I want to know who is responsible for making sure that the roads are fixed now, during, and after.
Yeah, part of this project, we will fix the roads that we're going to use as detours, and basically we're going to have to restore the road to the same way we found it. We understand that some roads are already in bad shape, but we are working closely with the City of LA, and we'll try to get these roads fixed before we start the full closure for the bridge.
Okay, well, it's not your fault that the roads are in bad condition now, but let's do something about it. One last point I wanted, has anybody talked about increasing the number of buses and looking at bus routes with Metro? So, I mean, since ferries don't seem to be feasible, I get that, but having more buses be able to transport people who are going to the same locations back and forth. I don't, unless I missed it, I don't think I've heard anything about that.
Actually, we're considering shuttles, but then we were told that the folks who are usually drive through this area, they won't use shuttles, they just have to drive their own cars. I recall that very well in our talks, especially with the Port of LA. So, and again, this will be something we could still on the table. We're gonna be working with City of LA DOT, so this is something we could consider as well.
Maybe they say they want to have their own car, but when they can't get to work and you have a bus that can get them there, they might be more open to it. Thank you.
Agree. I agree with you.
Thank you, Lori. I just want to expand on the comments regarding Western Avenue. Surely, I think we could have done better. I talked with my counterpart in construction today. So we're looking at opportunities to improve things moving forward, specifically right now in terms of Western Avenue and in terms of what other projects may represent on our corridors. we acknowledge that a lot of our local partners do a wonderful job in terms of indicating when a project is going to take place, the duration, et cetera. And we could take a page out of their book, so to speak, in terms of what we do on our highway system.
We have 4 new comments that have been submitted since this comment period began. I'd like to be mindful that there are 6 minutes left in our scheduled meeting. So as we call these folks up, please remember we all got to get home tonight. So I'll start with Santos.
Hello, good evening. Thank you guys for having this meeting this evening, and very informative. Appreciate it. I was late to a couple of them due to other commitments, so I didn't hear or read so far a couple of areas that concern me and my community of Wilmington. The emergency lanes in Wilmington off of PCH and Anaheim. And I'm referring to, I just heard right now, I think you guys said that you weren't going to, you'll probably have an alternative to PCH between Alameda and the 110. So it was about September 27th when there was an accident with a chemical spill. And that accident created a Harborgeddon just in Wilmington for that time. And in that time, it was like horrendous. Nobody could get through anywhere for over 45 minutes just to get to Avalon from Alameda or from the 110 to Avalon. So I live in an area that's highly congested with trucks, diesel trucks. So these diesel trucks are hitting residents' cars. They're hitting lamp posts, wrecking them, and there's no traffic police or any type of accountability with law enforcement. But I'll tell you this, on Thursdays, there is traffic enforcement when the trash man comes, and we'll all get a ticket. But when it comes to the trucks, having to detour because of another situation, they go through the neighborhood, and there's no traffic control. So I don't know, CHP doesn't have jurisdiction there on the east side of Wilmington, going to the west side, but in this particular area is on the east side between Drum, Blinn, and Sanford, where major trucking spots are. So that brings a congestion already. It's already in existence. And there's no lanes for emergency vehicles to come in. I mean, how are you going to deal with that? And the same thing goes for Anaheim, because we have bike lanes there, and now they put an island in the middle of Anaheim, so it's twice as congested. Whoa. So anyways, my third and final is the environmental clean air issue. I see that you guys have a EIR clean air situation, but how you address it. But are you going to be monitoring this during this time? Will you have any kind of monitoring systems to monitor the air quality and how much higher it goes? Because there's a high percentage of asthma, golden heart syndrome, and various respiratory diseases. So those are my questions or comments, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
So, Jason, if you could answer to the environmental monitoring, which does exist in the area.
So we have been meeting with the South Coast Air Quality Management District and the LAUSD. They've had concerns about school filtration systems, and we have an environmental air quality report that is attached to the environmental analysis. Our document that we circulated, that we spoke about earlier, is on the website. It might be a little bit difficult to find, but it's definitely there. And if you want to get into the details of the actual increases in air pollutants, they're in the document. And we do, basically, you have more traffic going through the neighborhood, you're going to have increase in pollutants. So we are meeting with the mitigation that we've identified in the document is that we're ongoing coordination with South Coast Air Quality Management District. Their number one concern is enforcing trucks and truck idling. They want to have some sort of level of enforcement to keep trucks from idling and going through residential neighborhoods during construction. That is going to be a challenge that's ongoing. The most recent development that we've had with LAUSD is that they are interested in us purchasing new air filtration systems for all of, maybe not all of the schools, but all of the schools that are identified as sensitive receptors within the area of Wilmington where the traffic is going to be going through. So that's what's going on as we speak. And again, we still have over a year before we do construction, so there might be new things that come up. But the analysis is in the environmental document, and that's where we're at so far.
Ray Regalado, followed by Advian Fernandez.
When I spoke last at the Wilmington meeting, I indicated that the harbor community is an engaged community, and I think you have a really good example of just how engaged we are here today. This is an item that is going to affect every single resident in Wilmington, San Pedro, and I dare to say Harbor City also. But I don't want to lose the fact that there's also a lot of small mom and pop businesses that this thing is going to impact, and it's going to be so important to them for their survival. So we really need to remember that to keep that traffic moving allows them to be getting their traffic so that they stay in business, and let's keep that in mind as we move forward. So as we move forward, some of the things that I heard here today, and I even heard it at the Wilmington meeting, is that there is a real interest as to just when is there going to be a coordinated meeting for the public with LAPD, Port Police, Department of Transportation, the guys that are out there trying to direct traffic. That going back to a comment that somebody said earlier, that when they had the backup of trucks over the Vincent Thomas Bridge and up the 110 freeway, channeling over two streets like Channel and Gaffey and First Street and Harbor, when the trucks were trying to navigate their way into where they were supposed to go, traffic was horrible, and that lasted for 3, maybe even 4 days. So I think as a community, we need to feel comfortable that their concerns are being listened to. The thing is that I feel very confident that everything that is being said today is being listened to. But next week, everything we say is going to change. And as we get closer and as we get during the construction, we are going to have more concerns. We're going to give you real life stories of real impacts. So we need all our law enforcement partners, CHP, everybody that's going to help us mitigate the traffic problems. We need to see them. We need to hear them. But the last point I'm going to make is the importance of the TMP. These meetings should be an ongoing process, because as of today, we're going to see different situations. So please, let's have these meetings ongoing, because we need to know. The guys who work the docks, they need to know. The people who go as far as downtown to go to work and come back, they need to know. And I'm going to say, as a resident, I need to know.
I understand. We're running over time both on the question and on the meeting. And I can speak to your concern about small business. This is actually a position inside Caltrans. I'm not sure the title, but it's meant to work with small businesses as they're impacted by our projects throughout the district. And if you could, connect us, provide the information. We will be in the project area to help small businesses mitigate their losses or impacts from our projects. And it's been touched on many times tonight, the ongoing coordination with law enforcement, including LAPD, CHP, Port Police. These organizations are part of the Technical Advisory Committee, which you are a recurring member, a recurring attendee. You're familiar with some of these conversations. But there will be further coordination with these agencies as we move forward, and we will continue to update the community and the public about our progress toward an enforcement plan. So Mr. Fernandez?
Just remember, we need to keep these conversations going continually through the project. Thank you.
We will. Yep, we will. Thank you. Mr. Fernandez?
Hello.
Here, but before you begin, I think one more staff member.
Thank you, Ray. Your feedback is always appreciated. In terms of, I guess your ask in terms of in-person kind of meeting, we'll kind of term that as a workshop, so to speak. So it's a takeoff of our TAC meetings of this meeting. So we do plan to set up a meeting as soon as January with our partners, the stakeholders, including enforcement and the school districts and whatnot. So I think as we proceed with future meetings, we could give you more definitive dates. I think if I had to say a date right now, it may be our next scheduled TAC meeting. We may use that as an opportunity to have an in-person, discussion, so to speak, of where we're at and where we're going to go.
Hello. Adrian Fernandez, Central San Pedro Neighborhood Council. As a stakeholder, can you go back to the schools impacted, please? I have a question right there. Is Harbor College impacted right there? Harbor College, is it impacted right there? Is it listed, is Harbor College a listed impacted school? So you didn't know Harper College is right there? I mean, I'm just asking, right? Okay, well, it's right there. I mean, that intersection of PCH and Figueroa, I mean, that's a busy intersection. And I mean, again, as what was mentioned earlier, I mean, you guys really missed the west side of the 110. So, I mean, I would really hope that you guys look into that. I hope we could work with LACCD with, the air filtration, because again, that whole area is going to be impacted. And I go to school there, and I want to be able to be there and not have to worry about all that stuff. I mean, truckers are going to find different routes. They're not going to take the whole 110. They're going to take neighborhoods. And that intersection right there of PCH and Figueroa, that's a big intersection. It's a complicated intersection. I'm stunned that you guys missed it, and I hope you guys can get to work on that.
Identify detour routes right now that portion of the station has to be identified. But as I stated before, we should look into the west side as best as possible.
Do you have an advisory council, or are you talking about creating an advisory council from the various communities that can help you so you don't make the mistake of not putting Harbor College, which is right next to the freeway?
And
that's where you all come from.
Indeed, we have a community advisory council that's.
We do have a community advisory, only Ray attends. Okay, other community councils, neighborhood don't send their representatives there, only Ray attends. We would be happy to see all of you there.
We have a community advisory committee that's met 16 times. And this presentation has been part of those meetings, and there's been ample opportunity for comments to be made. Well, Ray's here, and he's a frequent attendee. Yeah.
We know that this is coming.
Yeah.
We don't have most of what papers we're used to, and so I'm trying to figure out how all these questions will come up.
Okay. So Before we close out, we have one more speaker, Eric Bland. I'd like to give Eric the opportunity to speak.
Thank you for allowing me this time. It will be brief. So, I'm a resident here in San Pedro. Been here 30 years or so. And I live on First Street. And where I live, I've seen numerous accidents. I'm not talking about one or two. I had a sheriff cruiser crash into my wall at 4 o'clock in the morning. So tell me, where are you guys going to, where's the study at that is showing how First and Minor gets all of this traffic now, and where is it going to escalate in the future, and how are you guys going to stop it? I've seen the 2nd Street over on 2nd Street, a guy in the middle of the night fly down 2nd Street, crash, and it was fatal. He lost his life. So this traffic is going to come down from the hill and just bleed its way into these side streets. And if the police aren't there, if the highway patrol isn't there, LAPD isn't here tonight, the sheriff department isn't here tonight. It's great that you're representing the highway patrol, but how does that help us in our community when we're talking about kids going to school, senior citizens going to the grocery store? How are you going to help us on that? Where is that study at? Where's the empathy for our community when it comes to protecting our citizens? That's all I have to say. Oh, one more thing. The study on the ferry, I think you need to reconsider that. Because as a boatman with the IBU and the ILWU, from here to Long Beach is a waterway that can be done and cut the traffic and take people off the roads. And that's what we should be doing, is taking people off the road at this time and coming up with a better way to get them to work and get the community to work safely. Might be a small number, but it's a number that should be considered for our safety as a community.
Eric, thanks for your comments. Like I said, I can't speak on behalf of any other agency but the California Highway Patrol. Okay. So California Highway Patrol, once again, like I stated before, we do patrol unincorporated areas of San Pedro. We actually have what's called a COPS team. They're the community outreach and partnership team. And that team consists of, right now we have 2 officers, but we're slotted for 4 officers. A couple have just transferred, so we're in the process of filling the whole team. But the main mission of that team is to address community concerns in our unincorporated areas. We have 8 unincorporated areas that we take care of. I can list them all, but it goes as far as up to the Florence Firestone area, all the way to RPV. And they concentrate on problem areas. So the citizens will give us a call, say, hey, I have people running stop signs. I know we go to a little company, Mary, a lot in that area. I forget the lady's name, but she always calls and say, hey, they always run this stop sign. Our COPS team members go there. They sit at that stop sign. They and I want to say, I appreciate the community wanting enforcement, especially when this is all going on. But as a former COPS team officer myself, I was very vigilant. I was very vigilant when I was going out there enforcing and ensuring that the citizens' needs are met. However, just be warned, don't be that citizen who needs getting met, right? Because the first day I went out there, I ran into somebody who was at a community meeting who ran a stop sign, complaining about people running stop signs, and so that's gonna happen. So just know that if you want us out there, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna enforce the law, and we're gonna try to ensure that that pattern of behavior goes down, right? Because if you see us out there, it's a deterrent for people doing bad behavior. So we're going to do what we can within our scope to ensure that that you guys are safe, and if we see anything, we will be communicating with our allied partners to address those issues with them too, so they can take action if needed. So, if you have any issues in unincorporated area that we patrol, you can contact the California Highway Patrol South Los Angeles office, and a COPS team member will address that issue. We address the issues, and they do a good job at it. So, once again, tell us your issues, and we'll address it if it's in our jurisdiction. And if it's not in our jurisdiction, then we will communicate with our allied agency partners and inform them. And that's all we can do with that, on that aspect. We only can control what we can control.
I appreciate it.
Of course, sir. Thank you very much.
And that'll close the public comment period, feedback period of this meeting, and also bring this meeting as a whole to a close. The next meeting is scheduled for January 9th in Long Beach. As stated, the venue is yet to be determined, but we will reach out to you as soon as possible. The next meeting, Traffic Management Task Force meeting, is January 9th, 6 p.m. in Long Beach. So thank you for being here tonight. Get home safely. We'll see you in January.